So before we get into the case study and how I'm building my channels, I wanted to talk about how I outsource the videos and where to get the voiceovers. So that was, I think, the main question I got as soon as I started talking about cash cow YouTube channels. So there are three main parts of getting your channel outsourced. First of all, you need the script. These are the words of the video itself. Then you need the voiceover. This is, well, it's the voiceover, the audio. And finally, you need the editing. That is the clips or the images or whatever it is put together with the voiceover to produce the actual video file. This is what the user will see at the end of the day. The first element is the script. I'm sure people will disagree with me, but I personally think the script is the most important part. I have seen channels with millions of subscribers with a pretty rubbish voiceover and all they're doing is panning over images. But I've watched some of their videos because the script was so engaging. Now, the average budget for the script I see people quote is $25. I've gone upwards towards $100 in some case, but I'm usually around maybe 40 to 50. It really depends on how much research is required. Using the channels in the case study as an example, I think I paid $25 a script for the first channel, and the other two I pay about 40. I think one I pay 40 per script and the other I pay $50 per script. Now, if you saw my update on how I handle the content, I think there's another benefit here. If you're doing a niche website in the process, sometimes with some slight modification or sometimes just using it as is, I think posting the script as written content to a niche website can at least cover your costs, if not make extra profit on top. That's definitely something I do with most of the videos I put out, and definitely something I'm looking to do with the third channel that we're starting here for this case study. To outsource the scripts, I handle that in much the same way as I would outsource content for a niche site. I like to work with one or sometimes two writers on a topic, and I want to find someone who can, first of all, write, and secondly, someone who knows the topic, or at least knows it better than I do. For the YouTube script, I want someone who can write in that style. So usually I will put up the job listing saying it's for a YouTube script. I will ask them about the topic. I will try and get a basic understanding so I can talk about it. And if it seems like they understand it and they have experience, they can show a portfolio of previous videos or scripts they've worked on, I'll give them a shot. What I'm looking for is, if you kind of narrate it in your head, you can kind of see if it would work as a video. So written content sometimes doesn't quite flow as spoken words, but it has to kind of meet that. As for where you get your writers, I don't really think it matters. Upwork, onlinejobs.ph and Fiverr, they're probably the most common, but I mean, there's job boards all over the show. You could use Craigslist, you could use Facebook. It does take some trial and error. Anyone who's outsourced before will tell you. My general process is I will take on about 10 people for the job to start with, and maybe if I'm lucky, one of them is going to work out. So I will give them, if I think they can write and they're just not matching what I'm looking for, I'll give them some feedback and hopefully wind up with at least one person who takes that feedback. And if you're working with someone long term, it means after the first couple, you can kind of just trust them to get on with it. You don't really have to edit or check over it too much. If you're just getting started or you're maybe working with a limited budget, you can obviously make this cheaper by just writing the script yourself. If it's your first channel, I'd actually suggest do that anyway. It gives you a chance to kind of understand how you want the structure lined up, how you want your channel to sound, and that way you can also give that script as an example to your writers so they can kind of match the same layout. The second element is the voiceover. That's the audio. So once you have your script, you give it to your voiceover artist to record. This is where I see people kind of fall down a wee bit. They don't want to do it themselves because they don't want their voice on YouTube. I certainly don't want to voice all of the different sites I have. But outsourcing this, I think, is one of the easiest things to do. So again, I think the common way I see people do it is they go on Fiverr. I prefer to go to somewhere like Upwork because I want to work with people longer term. I'd rather have one or two people do it. And just after the first one or two, they have enough feedback that I don't really have to do much with it. There's no revisions required. I don't have to keep explaining the channel to people. I can just give them the file each week and leave them to it. So I think most of my channels at the moment I have long-term voiceover people for, and I can just give them about 2 scripts a week. I kind of like to front load it sometimes, so I'll give them a couple and just let that kind of batch up. And then I don't have to worry about it too much. One thing I will say is most of the feedback I got the other day when I was talking about what the Cash Cow channel is that voiceover prices are quite high. I would go on Upwork and look at the job listings there. You'll see the kind of price points people are posting. If you look on Fiverr, you'll see a job listing there, £11.70. That's about $13, $14, I think. Maybe $14, $15, either way. But that's for about 50 words. Once you go up to about 1,000 words, that listing is about $300, maybe $400. So I prefer Upwork because, again, I want to work longer term with a voiceover artist. It requires less time and feedback and editing. You'll also get better prices. If you do want to go through Fiverr, I would not pay $300 or $400 for 1,000 words. If you contact the voiceover artist, they'll probably give you a bulk discount, especially if they are recording consistently throughout your channel. If you wanted to make this part cheaper, again, if you're just getting started or you're working with a limited budget, you can voice it yourself. The one thing I would say is don't use your phone mic or an inbuilt mic on your laptop or something. A Yeti mic on Amazon will cost you, I think, somewhere between like $50 to $100. You don't need to make a huge amount of effort on the editing. In a lot of niches, you can still get away with a mediocre script. But if your video is primarily the commentary or the voice over it, it really needs to be at least good quality. Obviously, this channel is not a perfect example. I'm not a voiceover artist. But even if I'm paying $10 for a script, it sounds so much better than something I'm going to get recording myself with a phone or a laptop. So that's one thing I would say. If you're recording it yourself, just get even a halfway decent mic. It doesn't need to be professional level. It just needs to be somewhat decent. Once your voiceover has been created, you have the final stage in the process, which is the editing. Now here's where things will vary a little bit because it really depends on the niche you're in. Some niches, all you need is some stock images to pan over. Other niches, you can use some B-roll or stock video. If you're talking about movies or TV shows, which is a really common example in the cash cow niche, you'll be taking clips from other YouTube channels or movies or whatever it is and splicing them together. So some niches are more visual than others. Some you could use software like VideoScribe or just a simple whiteboard or slideshow video to explain something. Others, you'll need to take clips of the TV show or game or whatever it is. There are some big channels out there that all they're doing is panning over Amazon images and taking videos from manufacturers and vendors' websites. And that gives them a video about a product, which they then fill with affiliate links. And these videos work. These channels get millions of subscribers. It's kind of ridiculous. So the editing doesn't have to be as in-depth as you think. You don't have to be a world-class editor, but it really does depend on the niche that you're in. Where you really do have to be careful is if you are using copyright images or clips from other channels or that kind of thing, you need to be sure that your editor isn't slacking and just grabbing huge chunks of other people's content. It's one thing to talk about a TV show or a movie and use clips of it, as long as you're adding value to it. That's most likely with your voiceover and your script. But your editor really, if he's just slacking off and taking big chunks, it's going to get flagged. You're going to get copyright strikes. That's not good for you. It's not good for your channel. And because all of your channels are linked to your AdSense account, it's bad all around. The one way around this is when you do have an editor, if they're taking in content from anywhere that you haven't provided, get them to provide a list of where the content comes from between which times. So if there's a 10-second clip from somewhere, I run a list of where that clip is and where they took it from. Again, if you're just getting started or you're working on a limited budget, you can do this yourself. You really don't have to be an artist or a video editor. If I can do it, anyone can. You can use software like Adobe Premiere, I think is the most popular choice. Or if your niche suits a whiteboard style, you could use VideoScribe or Toonami. There's a whole lot of variations for this. You can even just use slideshows and record the screen and create a slideshow. Again, it really depends what niche you're in, but you might be surprised how little editing you actually need. If your script is good or if the niche just doesn't need that much kind of work. Obviously, you can create full-blown animated videos. That takes either some talent or some money, but that's a kind of different beast. So you outsource your script, you pass the script to the voiceover artist, your voiceover artist returns the audio file, you give that to the editor, and they return the video. Now, either you can outsource the publishing or you could publish the video yourself. That gives you a wee bit of quality control, and it only takes a minute or two. The one extra stage there is to track everything. So track how much you invest into the content. And when you're tracking the revenue, keep in mind that it really depends on the channel. So some channels I have, when I do publish a video, they will pay themselves off within the first 24 hours, sometimes less. Sometimes I'll publish a video and it won't get enough views for maybe even a week, maybe longer before it pays itself off, especially with newer channels. Sometimes it can take quite a while. But every time you publish, the overall channel benefits from the channel's activity. So when you're gauging the profit and loss, look at the channel as a whole and not as an individual video. That would be my advice anyway, because even if an individual video doesn't do that well, I notice a big uptake in the overall channel every time I publish. So even if one's kind of mediocre, the rest of it makes up for it. So that's how I outsource my videos. If you want to see the results of the case study and how my 3 channels here are doing, make sure you hit subscribe. If there's anything I haven't covered, there's a comment section, or drop me a message on forums or Reddit or wherever you saw this.